VPN Implementation, Learning Objectives and Key Concepts. Learning objectives describe the fundamental functions of a virtual private network, common VPN technologies, and the elements of VPN implementation and management. Follow the implementation of a VPN. Key concepts: planning and selecting an appropriate VPN solution for an organization, remote access alternatives to VPN, VPN solutions, deploying and testing a VPN. Operating system-based VPNs and VPN appliances. Operating system-based VPNs installed on computers running commercial operating systems such as Windows, Linux, and Unix. VPN appliances are hardware-based. Remote users use the public IP address assigned to the appliance to connect. VPN appliances. Configuring a VPN appliance. Most appliances designed for simple and quick installation. Plug the appliance into the network between the internet service provider connection and the internal network. Log on to a web page, complete configuration, and add user access accounts. Change the default settings. Give each VPN user an individual access account. Client-side configuration. Configure software on the computers, the clients, connected to the network. Small installations assume use of Microsoft or Mac VPN client software. Linux and Unix may have built-in client VPN software. Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP. It's a proprietary protocol developed by Microsoft that provides a user with a graphical interface to another computer, an extension of the ITU T.128 application sharing protocol. Remote Desktop Connection, a built-in application that uses RDP. When enabled, can connect to another computer, log on, and perform almost any action as if you're sitting in front of the remote computer. The client can run other operating systems such as Mac OS, Linux, or Unix that support the Terminal Services Protocol. Here's an example of enabling remote desktop on a Windows client. Using remote control tools. Remote assistance built into Windows allows help desk professionals or other IT administrators to remotely control a user's system while the user is watching. Third-party tools could be TeamViewer, LogMeIn, Remote PC, and others. Using remote access. Remote users can be salespeople on the road, field technicians, consultants working at a customer work site, anyone authorized who needs to have access to internal company resources while away. VPNs use tunneling protocols to establish secure connections. Tunneling protocols include different types of encryption to protect data. Technology for remote use. PPTP, which is point-to-point tunneling protocol, L2TP, which is layer 2 tunneling protocol, and as we previously discussed in other units, the SSL TLS, which is secure sockets layer and transport layer security. These are based on tunneling protocols. And IKE-v2, which is the Internet Key Exchange version 2. Remote Desktop Service, a built-in Microsoft Server product with multiple uses. Works in two main modes: Remote Desktop Session Host. Server typically provides pools of desktop sessions and applications for everyday user workloads. Remote Desktop Virtualization Host is a server typically provides personal desktop sessions and virtual machines. Both modes allow an administrator to provide multiple virtual desktops, each of which can be used just like a user's primary workstation. There are other remote desktop services such as RD Remote App. It's a Microsoft solution that runs on Microsoft RDS server, appears to end users as if they're actually running their own systems, regardless of which OS they're running. RD Web Access, an RDS server role that allows desktops and RD Remote App applications to launch from a web browser. Needs ISS, or Internet Information Services, which is the Microsoft Web Server, to work properly. RDS and hosted services. An internet service provider or software vendor leases applications to organizations. Applications run on the service provider servers users interact with the application over the internet. Microsoft Direct Access, a Microsoft solution that can be used as an alternative to a traditional internet VPN. Allows remote clients to connect to internal servers without initiating a VPN connection. Client computers connect to the Direct Access computer, which acts as a gateway to internal resources. Can access only resources configured for direct access. An example of this would be configure a Microsoft Exchange server, which is for email, with direct access. When a direct access enabled Windows client connects to the internet, it will automatically connect to the direct access server. When the user starts Microsoft Outlook, direct access automatically makes the connection to the internal Microsoft Exchange server. DMZ, extranet, and intranet VPN solutions. DMZ is a demilitarized zone, a physical or logical subnetwork that contains and exposes the organization's external services to a larger untrusted network, usually the internet. Adds an additional layer of security to the organization's local area network. Intranet VPN is the internal network, and intranet VPN connects to two or more internal networks. Extranet VPN links customers, suppliers, partners, or communities of interest to a corporate intranet over a shared infrastructure. Commonly configured to connect via the internet, but can use leased lines or dedicated connections. An extranet VPN topology. You have a couple of remote offices. You have an extranet partner with VPN clients. So you got a vendor or somebody that needs to come onto your corporate network. You have remote users, telecommuters, and then you have the home enterprise that's got a certificate of server, and you got the CA, the VeriSign is the CA server out on the internet. And all of these work in conjunction to providing a VPN connection back to the enterprise. Internet Cafe VPNs. An Internet Cafe is a public location that sells internet access, often by the minute. An Internet Cafe VPN connection is when you connect with the Internet Cafe or the wireless connection, you would connect to the Intranet Cafe VPN hosted at your organization. Online remote VPN options. You have security option, wake on LAN support, file sharing, remote printing, and Mac and mobile device support. The Tor application. It's an application that uses onion routing, designed as an architecture to limit a network's vulnerability to eavesdropping and traffic analysis. Uses multiple proxy servers or relays to provide anonymous connection. Each proxy server knows only the details from the previous proxy server or the next proxy server. Proxy servers provide anonymity for users by requesting access to resources and making it appear as if the proxy server is requesting the access and not the original user. The goal of Tor is to allow users to browse the internet anonymously. Planning a VPN implementation. Here we have OpenVPN, which is an open source VPN for Windows, Linux, and other operating systems, creates a site-to-site VPN tunnel, supports pre-shared secret key encryption via static key mode or SSL/TLS security with client and server certificates, supports non-encrypted tunnels using TCP or UDP through proxies or NAT. IPsec, which VPNs are based, does not tolerate network address translation packets. Networks, both ends of the VPN tunnel must use different IP address ranges. Permanent site-to-site VPNs require firewalls at both ends that use static IP addresses. Here is an example of a VPN topology diagram. We have a network on the left-hand side of the slide, which is 172.16.1.0/24, and another network on the right-hand side, which is 10.0.0.0/24. Now, either side wants to communicate to the other side they'll have to go through a VPN firewall, and there's a site-to-site VPN tunnel set up between VPN 1 and VPN 2, and then there's translations of routing addresses on both of those firewalls that know about each other's network, so that they can traverse the tunnel to securely get from the left to the right, or vice versa. Configuring OpenVPN typically requires a configuration file and a key certificate file. A simple VPN with a single server and client can use a static key setup or a secret key rather than create a public key infrastructure with key pairs and certificates. Configuration files include comments about which items need to be modified, directives or attributes preceded by a semicolon are ignored. Removing the semicolon allows a directive or attribute to be read and acted upon. Ensure that the parameters in the client configuration file match those in the server configuration file, such as dev, turn or tap, and proto, UDP, and TCP. Ensure that UDP port 1194 is open for the server. A portion of the client sample file in OpenVPN. As you can see, here's the example and the configuration specifications. This is a portion of the server sample file in OpenVPN. And as you can see, it's just a few different parameters, and you would get rid of that pound or hash mark to enable that feature. Testing and troubleshooting. To verify that the VPN is running, issue a ping command from the server and the client. Example, ping 10802 from a server command prompt to reach the client, and ping 10801 from the client to reach the server. Now, the important part is you just can't run those commands on any network. You would replace the IP address with a host and a gateway in the real world. If the ping fails, check the firewall settings. Open UDP port 1194 on the firewall, or set up a port forward rule to forward UDP port 1194 from the firewall gateway to the machine running the OpenVPN server. Ensure that the tune tap interface is not firewalled. You might need to create a name for the remote VPN in the zones file. Describe which IPsec interface is to use based on the names of the zone file. Describe how the networks named in the zone file interact in the policy file, and define the public IP address of the remote sites in the tunnels file. Here's an example of an OpenVPN private tunnel, a simple personal tunnel that encrypts the connection and makes your IP address anonymous. Easy to set up and use. Good for small office, home office settings and individuals. VPN implementation best practices. Use strong authentication, use strong encryption, protect the VPN server behind a firewall. In summary, we've looked at planning and selecting an appropriate VPN solution for an organization. We've looked at remote access alternatives to VPN, such as remote desktop, VPN solutions, deploying and testing a VPN.